Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Slammin Stan, edition number 48. We're going a little unorthodox. We are doing 2 straight weeks, several news items to cover, and talking about all the fun we had last weekend. I am Vandal Drummond, and we're with Fredo Esparza, who's the engineer of this whole device. Fredo, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Today. Can't complain.
Neither can I. I have absolutely nothing to complain about. I have a nice cup of English breakfast tea in front of me. My internet is up and running. I have several CDs by Terry and the Blue Jeans to rock out to.
Well, we're gonna do a show this week because of all the big news this past weekend.
Big news, and the biggest news for the hardcore wrestling and lucha libre fans, no doubt, is the announcement that CMLL's Mistico is no longer CMLL's Mistico. It is now WWE's Mistico.
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know what name he's going to be called. But
this is true.
He's gone from CMLL apparently, so he'll apparently, I guess he starts in February in Florida.
Now this news, if I recall correctly, broke Sunday morning.
Yeah, about 9-ish or something. I don't know, a little early in the morning.
It was Super Luchas that broke it, yes?
Yeah, their top story for their weekly issue was going to be Mistico, and I guess they let it out early to certain guys. They sent them some, to get the buzz going.
And I guess there's kind of a whole Mistico, true to his name, there's a whole kind of mystique to his last year in the lucha libre industry, one of which nobody knows the exact reason why. When he turned Rudo last year, I mean, he was a golden heel. He was just exquisite.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, they just dropped his heel turn like it never happened.
I think they already kind of feared something was going up with him. Something was going on. That's,
I guess, the other mystery is it sounds like there is speculation that CMLL had some awareness that he was eyeing other possibilities outside CMLL, including, was there talk that he was also looking into AAA?
Yeah, that was back in late October, early November. I guess he supposedly sent feelers towards AAA, but there's a lot of guys in AAA who don't like him. Conan being one of them. There's a couple other guys that don't like him, there's a lot of guys who don't like him at CMLL also. So I don't think there's a lot of guys really totally upset about him leaving. But still, he's still a cash cow.
Yeah, he is a cash cow, and it's intriguing that AAA wouldn't. What is it that the people in AAA don't like about him? Are they feeling like he's
a dick?
Oh, okay. So he is a dick.
There are, superstars. They're all like that. They all have a bit of an attitude.
Yes.
So I guess he kind of rubbed a couple of guys. Well, look at Dr. Wagner Jr. He's just as bad as Mistico too. So.
Yes, the word on Dr. Wagner Jr. is he is looking solely out for his career.
Yeah.
As opposed to getting programs over, getting the other wrestlers over. That's been the talk anyways.
Yeah, but that's how it is with all wrestlers. They'll be really nice to you in front of you, but then they'll have certain guys, not everybody. If everybody was like that and everybody held a grudge, then nobody would be working for anyone out for very long with much harmony, and nobody would be making any money. Well, he's been wanting to. He's had tryouts. WWE has had interest in him since 2006, I think. So it's been a while. It's been something that they've been wanting. They've been wanting to get him for a while. It's just
and it's fascinating. Mistico is the only luchador in history to get Wrestler of the Year in the Wrestling Observer Awards.
Uh-huh.
It's never been done. I don't think anybody's even come close.
Well, of course. Dave Meltzer. The awards are based on what Dave Meltzer is whatever he likes.
it's more likely to get a reaction from people who, and that's understandable. I mean,
yeah, but that still was surprising because
yeah, I know it is.
I mean, I don't think he ever disliked Mistico, but I don't remember him just raving about him like. I mean, the only other time I was that surprised about somebody getting Wrestler of the Year was, I believe it was the late 1980s one year when Ricky Shoshu won.
Wow.
And this was the biggest surprise since then.
Yeah. Whenever it's a foreign wrestler, it's a bit of a surprise.
Yes. And back then, it was traditionally Ric Flair who won Wrestler of the Year. The other thing with Mistico is there was one point a few years ago where he was raking in a lot of cash. However, he was working a mind-boggling schedule where he was working multiple dates per day.
We were talking about this over the weekend, how a lot of people used to worry about him wrestling too much. And then, like now, when he started wrestling less, people were worried about, hey, there's something going on. It was like one of those things where it just kind of like, it just went back and forth. Like, if he wasn't wrestling, somebody's upset. Or if he was wrestling, he's wrestling too much. He's on too many shows.
Well, wrestling too much, there were two sides to that. I mean, there were not two sides, but two problems with that. You're wrestling too much, your body's going to be hurting in a record amount of time.
Yeah.
Number two is, you do have to hold back some. I do remember there was such a heavy CMLL schedule in general. I'm not going to I'm not going to take Darvon before Slammin stands anymore. That settles it.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Did Darvon get taken off the market?
What's that?
Didn't Darvon get taken off the market?
Oh, then what did I take? Oh, dear. I hate these unmarked bottles.
Just discovered Kurt Brown's doing illegal drugs now. Illegal drugs.
Well, it's a pill with a couple of letters and numbers on it, and just because I can't read it doesn't mean it's illegal. Well, we're joined by the Bixie Demon, no doubt.
I was kind of sad that you only addressed the newsletters that you sent to me just to David Bixie Bixenspan and not David the Bixie Demon Bixenspan.
I will correct that because I have a plethora of stuff that I am still forwarding to you. To those people out there, I think David Bixenspan's The Bixie Demon is Lucha Libre Weekly collection is almost complete. Lucha Libre Weekly being the totally awesome Lucha newsletter that Steve Sims put out in the early 90s.
Yep. And I've started to do summaries on them on a couple of boards, Death Valley Driver and Pro Wrestling Only, so figured that's fun. I figured if I asked Steve, he probably wouldn't mind if I scanned any of them to put up, but I figured this is more fun, and I know I'm reading them this way.
I would be shocked if he would be upset about that. And shocked and disappointed. So Dr. Luch, if you're shocked or disappointed, you know our number. You call in. Well, call in anyways. Why haven't you called us in ages, Dr. Lucha?
I know.
He's watching sports now, so.
What good is sports? Sports is real.
This is more, as I was saying, doing the summaries is more fun anyway, and
yeah.
This is true. Highlights rock opposed to the whole story, It was like last August when I went up to San Francisco at Kezar Pavilion for roller derby. Johnny Legend came to the show. And so the game starts, we're watching it, and 15 minutes later, Johnny just says, okay, how long is this thing going to go? Is this going to end soon? And we're proudly on Southern California time. We like things quick. We like it fast. We like it sunny.
That's going to be another problem, Kurt. How's Mistico going to get through WWE when he's on Mexican time,
Oh, that's true. Well, I hope
he's late to a lot of stuff.
Well, I hope he follows whatever methods Alberto Del Rio has been using because there's a success story, which brings us to the second.
But it's going to happen in Florida. He's going to show up late a couple of times until they finally get it to him. They get it the message into his brain that you can't show up late to a WWE, show or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's actually going to tell the story of his success in WWE more than anything is whether he can fall in line.
Yeah.
That's my hunch, anyways.
And that's going to be hard, given he was a star in another promotion where it was basically catered to him. So now there's going to be that issue.
Yeah, and I actually was surprised that Dos Caras became Alberto Del Rio, only because I thought, here's a guy who enjoyed some celebrityhood both in mixed martial arts and in pro wrestling, and
he doesn't like Mistico either. He doesn't like Mistico. He doesn't like Mistico.
Well, this is make or break for Mistico then.
Yeah, so he already loses points there.
Well, in that case, I hope Mistico is leaving CMLL on decent terms.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Oh, well.
He's not.
Okay, so. Mistico, it's make or break. You better fall in line. You better
hope it lasts longer than Cabal. Because, I mean, if it lasts as long as Cabal, he'll be wrestling indies pretty soon. He doesn't. That's not going to be that easy either.
I wonder if they'll insist that. I wonder if he would insist that he win too when he goes back to the Indies.
He probably will.
Okay, there's our dream match for the next WrestleReunion show: Low Key versus Mistico. Winner gets to decide who wins.
No, I must win. No, I must win.
You know how big of a risk this is going to be for Mistico if he totally just botches it. I mean, because he's not. He's leaving a promotion where the owner basically won't. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's losing money. He's not going to bring anybody back if he hates that person. So I don't know what's going to happen with him.
Well, and the first thing they're going to say to him is that they'll say that he can't work.
Yeah.
And they have to retrain him how to work in their style.
That's why I'm saying. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Farren who just joined us. So we have Fredo, Vandal, Bixie Demon, and Dan Farren. And that's why I say I really do think Dos Caras is one of those rare gems who accepted the fact that he has to work a totally different style. I don't think a lot of people who have been around that long will get in line that fast.
But it took him a while too. I mean, he was in FCW for a while. So.
Well, but I think his attitude must have changed.
It must have changed.
You got to remember, he did work a much more Western style though than not Western. You know what I mean though.
He was a bad
much more American Japanese style. Why am I saying Western?
Wild West style. Wild West. He was going to be true grit.
Well, he was a big guy, so he's not going to be able to do a lot of the lucha stuff. So, like the topes and all that.
He turned from Antonio Banderas to Jeff Bridges. Overnight.
Why? Well, Giant Silva was able to do the topes.
Yeah. Well, Strongman does topes too. I mean, planchas.
That's Strongman.
Yeah.
He rocks.
And you never thought those cars do that many planchas or anything. So.
No, I think he's working smart, and that's the other big news is the fact that he was put over in the Royal Rumble. I have not seen the Royal Rumble. Has everybody else seen it?
No,
I have.
Who saw it?
Bixie saw it. Oh, Mr. Farren, have you seen it?
No, I have not. Not yet.
So then we're looking to Bixie. What was your take on the Royal Rumble?
The whole show or just the match?
Just the match. Alberto Del Rio specifically.
I liked the match a lot. I thought it was a good Rumble. I was glad that the 40 guys didn't end up causing a problem. Because I was kind of worried about that they'd end up having to shave time or something. But they ended up leaving like 90 minutes at least of satellite time. So when they went off the air, they were like 10 seconds short of the longest Rumble ever, and they still had like 15 minutes of time left they could have used. So
that was not the longest Rumble ever, because I heard it was an hour and 10 minutes. Which one went longer than that?
It was in the Observer. It was one a few years ago. I'd have to check, but
yeah.
But it was it was like 10 seconds short of it though.
Yeah.
And so that was not an issue. Like, apparently some of the intervals even went longer than 2 minutes, even though they were supposed to be 90 seconds. So they weren't really shaving time, and a lot of good stuff. They loaded up the early part of the match to make it more of like a work rate action match. They started with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. They kept having exchanges and throwing guys out. They had Regal in, and of course, probably the highlight as far as just spot-wise in the match was the John Morrison thing, which they did end up showing on Raw. So, did any of you guys see it?
Yes, I did. That is absolutely amazing to me.
What?
The Morrison spot.
Oh.
You haven't seen it or heard about it?
Well, I don't know what spot you're talking about. He did a lot of spots on Raw.
The
Spider-Man spot.
Where he grabbed onto the barricade from Sunday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt, did you read about this or the clip yet?
The only thing I saw was the celebration the next night with Alberto, and I just sat there very happy because I predicted he would have a good year last year when Junior Dos Santos defeated Mirko Cro Cop and avenged Dos Caras Jr.
Yeah.
So I just kind of basked and, basked in my nonsensical, hallucinatory prediction that 2010 would be his year. And I do hope 2011 is his year because I really do think he's worked for it, and I do think he clicks.
Did you watch the spot, though?
Well, going back to the Morrison spot, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, he took the bump off the apron, and he, like Spider-Man, he hit the wall, and then jumped up on it, walked the wall, avoided an idiot that tried to reach out to touch him or whatever, and then jumped from the wall over onto the steps and back in again.
Oh, my Lord, no way.
His knees are going to go by the time he's like 30 or something,
And then
that sounds more like a Jack Evans spot to me.
Yeah, he's doing some spots that are just going to ruin his knees.
Well, it was one of those things where he was extremely lucky because I don't know how I don't know how he hit it, to tell you the truth. I mean, it was so intricate, and it was such a gamble that, if somebody said something like that to me, I would probably say, well, don't do it, because if it doesn't work, it's going to look stupid. And
he landed on the stairs, right?
But when he jumped over, when he took the amazing thing to me was when he took the bump, he had to fly from the apron all the way to the barrier, and it's like his feet, and it was like Spider-Man, his feet hit, and he grabbed a hold of the top of it.
I wonder if they put extra padding on so he'd be able to get his feet planted in a little more.
I wonder that, or maybe the soles of his boots might have been a little more have a little more traction to them than normal.
Because there was so little, margin for error.
No, there was no margin for error. That's the amazing thing about it,
Even being incredible
Dan, you were hoping he would flip or something.
No, I'm not that way. I like Morrison. I really do like Morrison. I think that he's that he gets I got a feeling he's one of those guys that really deserves to be a little higher up on the show, and he does get to do that stuff, but he's never going to. If you read the articles that have been out the last couple of weeks by the writer who used to write for the WWE, that supposedly Vince doesn't think he looks tough enough. So he'll probably never get any kind of push there. But if you consider and look at him again, how he was just a few years ago and how he is now, the only thing bad is, like a lot of people were saying, is that after doing something like that, he's going to feel a need to all the time top that, and then he's going to miss it at some point and hurt himself, probably.
Kind of like a Jeff Hardy type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff he was doing, you can already sense that in the main event on Monday night, because when they were doing the Raw Rumble, he was doing spots where, like, he landed on his hands, or he was hanging by his feet from the bottom rope or whatever. And, I look at that and I just think, it's a neck injury waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it me, or does it seem like it's starting to click with some people in WWE that they do need to establish some new stars as opposed to more Kane, more Undertaker?
Oh yeah, and I wonder if they got the message though with one of the big things people were talking about in the Rumble, besides the Morrison deal and Del Rio, was that the stuff with Cena and Orton together, the arena was silent.
Yeah, and that's in Boston where Cena's from, for God's sake.
And he got a big pop coming out, and the stuff with Hornswoggle, got over. But later on, it was not, there was just nothing. You could tell that once Cena and Orton were like some of the last guys in there, that they were not crazy about the idea of either of them being in the main event of WrestleMania again.
Yeah, I would have to start to wonder after a while. They've had those same handful of guys in the mix for the last year, at least a little bit more than that even, in the main events because they're afraid that those are the only people that the audience will accept as main eventers. But in doing that, what they've done is they've just burned them out. They've just pushed them so much to the point where, and in smaller promotions you could do that in the old days. When you had the local promotions, you could have that, like the Jerry Lawlers or the Robert Fullers or those kind of guys that would be on top for a long period of time. But nowadays, people's patience is a lot shorter. And I think, as Kurt was saying, when you look at this stuff and you see, Triple H is not going to be coming back full time. The Undertaker's end is near. Mysterio is not that far away from it. And what you got is a bunch of guys in their 30s, and they're all one good injury away from being gone.
Yes, and that last Kane push was really painful. And I never really disliked Kane, but that was a channel changer.
Oh yeah, it was a horrible channel changer, and Mistico. I know the idea is to bring Mistico in and try to make him into another Rey Mysterio. But the thing is, it's in another year. Especially if he has an ego to it. In another year when he's doing jobs for Hornswoggle. Let's see what happens there. Though that's something that's not really new. Going back to the '80s when the WWF first started bringing in the guys from other groups, one of the things they would always do at a house show is that they would have them lose to somebody. Like, for example, I remember when Rick Rude came in, before he debuted on TV, he did a job for S.D. Jones, like in Philadelphia or Boston, someplace like that.
The one everyone always talks about is Rick Rude and Jerry Allen.
Yeah, that was another one, yeah. Where what they would do is they would hang on to that, so in case he split or whatever, or something happened, then the last appearance he would have would be this defeat to a jobber.
Also, I think they're wanting to see what, excuse me, I assume they're wanting to see what the attitude was like, because the one I remember actually seeing firsthand was in 1983. Paul Orndorff did a clean job to Billy Anderson at the LA Sports Arena.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad for Billy because the match was going fine, and Billy did a leapfrog, and he just didn't quite get high enough, and Orndorff just started wailing on the poor guy.
Yeah.
And which I thought was not professional at all, but Anderson won with a clean body press, and what I'll never forget is even though the crowd didn't know Orndorff, there was just this shocked, whoa, when Billy went over.
I think the idea was, if I'm correct, that's in that weird time frame where they had snatched up some people and were just kind of, either using him on local shows or sending him to Japan or do whatever. And Orndorff, I don't think, had been officially introduced at that point.
Right. A lot of guys from Georgia, and some of them sat out for a while. Orndorff was the first one to debut, though.
He was the first one. He was the first one with and
Billy TV months before everyone else.
And Billy was strictly a jobber at that time. He was put over nobody, and so that's why I wondered if maybe, because I can't remember, I think it was Strongbow who was the road agent in L.A. at the time, and I just wonder if he's saying, okay, let's see if this guy will play ball. I have no idea.
Yeah, that could be it, but it could be the old school mentality of the fact is, well, we're in Los Angeles. Yeah, he's a jobber, but he's well known to people in Los Angeles more so than Paul Orndorff would be. So let's put him over.
That's true. Yeah, that could be too.
Well, the thing you said though about wanting piece of tape of him losing and stuff, that's actually a Vince Sr. thing, because Ivan Koloff talks about it in his book that.
Oh, really?
Right after he won the title, and for the 3-week reign before he loses to Pedro Morales, at the TV taping, he's facing someone in a title match or whatever, Tony Parisi maybe, and they do a spot where Koloff did an abdominal stretch. The referee rings the bell, gives the title to Parisi.
Wow.
And then he says, oh, wait, and then they do this thing where it said, the referee apologizes. He thought he heard Mr. Koloff submit, but he did not, so the match will be restarted. And then Koloff, gets angry when they goes back. What are you trying to pull? And they said they needed it, with insurance. And they said, why didn't you just ask me? Blah, blah, blah. And,
yeah.
Oh. Well, I think that's actually not a bad idea. I mean, I know the promoters are often made out to be the bad guys, and there are some pretty seedy promoters out there. But I think that's smart to have this little insurance policy there if somebody wanted to get smart and take a hike on you.
Ah, so you come out in favor of blackmail, do you?
I don't think so. I mean, you know what I'm thinking, though? I mean, this is WWWF in the early 70s. You're even, coming in for a few weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And Koloff says, because they had promised him a longer run at first, that, that he'd be feuding with Morales after, and he didn't because they wanted him, they changed it that they had him leave and come back later. He had moved, and Vince Sr. ended up paying him well enough that it didn't matter, but if someone's in that territory and they're going to be world champion even for a few weeks, why are you going to hold up that promoter for money instead of keeping good relations with the biggest paying promoter in the country?
Yeah.
Probably not, but every now and then something unpredictable does happen. I mean, I bet you a lot of it would be paranoia on the promoter's part, but there have been incidents where there have been double crosses or, somebody just wants to show up to another promotion, you never know. I mean,
I remember, I think another one that always pops to mind when I think about it is when Rude and Manny Fernandez had the belts in the NWA, and they had I think it was a non-title match or whatever, where the Rock and Roll Express went over, and they played that later and claimed it was a title match, and that was the end of Rude there anyway.
Well, they were lucky because it was taped for the World Pro Wrestling Show in Japan. It's not like they were taping every, dark match or whatever. So they had this extra match. And it was funny, though, because the deal was that I forget if it was Rude or Fernandez. I think Rude left first, and then they Koloff was going to take his after the tag titles. And then all of a sudden, and then Fernandez leaves too.
Yeah.
So Rude's magically back for this one match.
Yeah.
And then they drop the titles.
Yeah, and it's funny, though, because, again, they had no control over it, but, they spent all that time worrying about Koloff, and then they sent Bob Backlund over to Japan, and he winds up dropping the title there,
Hey, guys, can I jump in and say one thing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay. It's interesting. You guys are talking about Ivan Koloff's reign. I heard from a pretty reliable source that, originally, before Pedro Morales got the title, that he wasn't originally going to get the title, that originally the title was going to go to Victor Rivera.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I never heard that.
And I heard that from a very reliable source, the Southern California.
And this voice here is
Pat Bowed pretending to be like Rivera.
No, that's what I was told. I was told that Victor Rivera was the original choice, and something happened where I don't know if Rivera wasn't going to stick around last minute, or something happened, or he was going to come out here or something, and they very last minute gave it to Pedro Morales. But then again, I heard that Vince Sr. was never truly crazy about Pedro Morales as much as he was about Victor Rivera, but then if that was true, he kept the belt on Pedro for quite a while. So, it's just speculation.
And by the way, let's introduce who this voice is. Who is this? Who just mentioned this?
Yes.
Ryan.
I was going to say, I know that, but the audience doesn't know this.
That's true. They should know Ryan by now.
Wait, there's an audience?
Actually, I made a joke about that last week, and I forgot who it was, but somebody actually posted something on Facebook saying, and despite what Dan Farren says, I do listen to the show.
Oh, there's a lot of people that listen to the show. We just
so there actually were. But going back to Victor Rivera for a second, that to me is a fascinating choice because, I remember Pedro Morales' interviews back at that time because I was living in Maryland. But, I mean, for God's sake, Victor Rivera would make Pedro Morales look like, a Rhodes Scholar at that point because Rivera's interview was always
Yeah.
Well, the only reason that I would doubt that is just based on what I've heard. Vince Sr. really had programs planned out well ahead of time, and unlike his son, did not wing anything.
Yeah.
And his son didn't always wing everything.
What's that?
His son didn't always wing everything.
No, he did it before. If you look at the thing from Savage winning the belt at WrestleMania 4 to the following year, that was already planned out.
Oh yes. I'm talking more recently, but no, his father. I mean, I heard from several people that who worked like in the early '80s that they were shocked just how intricately and ahead of time things were planned out.
Yeah. That does make sense. I wonder too, and again, I'm not doubting your source, but Ryan, but that night, if I remember correctly, Pedro Morales made his return and won that match, and that match was the match that set up him being the number one challenger to the belt. So it sounds to me like this was something that was set up for a while.
Oh, okay.
It could well be. I'm not saying that the Oregon Lumberjack told you this wrong. I'm just saying. Besides that, I hear, just to be on the safe side, Vince Sr. had Victor Rivera lose to Skylo Low, and they have it on tape. And just in case.
But remember, Bret Hart stole most of his spots from Skylo Low, so that's why I disregard half the stuff Bret Hart says in his book.
Well, I thought Bret Hart said that Ric Flair stole most of his spots from Skylo Low.
Yeah, well, I heard that on dark shows in the Calgary area when there were no cameras, Bret Hart would practice spots where he'd run between the referee's legs and bite him on the ass and grab his pay. I heard he just idolized Skylo Low. Okay, well, somebody I really want to put over big time on the show. Not that he needs any more putting over because.
Thank you, Kurt.
That's right, Fredo Esparza. We're going to call him King of Men. No disrespect to the spirit of Freddie Blassie, but Alfredo Esparza.
Reyes de Reyes.
That's right. Davey Richards. I know everybody knows that I don't see a lot of ROH. I don't see a lot of Dragon Gate. There's a lot of the new school I don't see, but I think Dan could probably tell more why I want to put this guy over, not just because he had a great match, but I think just a couple of things. First of all, we had seen Davey Richards several years ago. I think, Kurt, you and I did at one of the Battle of Los Angeles shows. Yeah.
And he was really good then, but after watching him twice over the weekend, seeing him at the PWG show with Loki on Saturday night, and then at the MPW show with Ryan Taylor on Sunday, I almost would have to say that the guy it lives up to me to his reputation. He may be the best wrestler in the entire world right now because, like I said, the match with Loki was great. I was able to watch the match on Sunday right there at ringside. I mean, literally standing, behind one of the ring posts, and was just amazed. And also, the guy is probably about as far removed from the, he brings that intensity to the ring, but he's about as far as removed as a very nice, quiet, kind of laid-back guy talking to him. Because I'd asked him, because when he got pinned on Saturday night, he took the Warriors Way, that big double stomp off the top rope from Loki, with both feet landing on his chest or his stomach, and he made some sort of remark that I said, I said, that looks like that would hurt, and he goes, yeah, it does. There's no way around that. But basically, the guy came in and he was working for us at MPW on Sunday. There's a lot of room, as always, when you come into these situations to be. To come with the big head and make demands and do this and do that, but he didn't. He did an old school thing by putting the local guy over, and at the end of the match, after he lost, he shook Ryan Taylor, and then he lost by submission. He shook Ryan.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. He shook Ryan Taylor's hand and went down to one knee and led the audience in applause for him. And was very impressed, just very, very impressed by him.
Yeah, he has a fan in me.
What, Kurt?
Oh, he has a fan in me.
Yes.
Not me.
Not you. Why?
You mischief maker. Behave yourself, Bixie.
Explain yourself, Bix. Explain yourself.
Bix, care to explain yourself?
To me, he's just always come off as this guy who's very, like, kind of faux intensity. I am a great Japanese pro resu warrior, junior heavyweight type guy. Like, too, like, and just, like, over dramatic kind of, like, fakey seeming selling. I don't know. It just always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And when I first heard,
but that's basically the style that they use now on the independent level.
Well, more so, not as good at it. Then.
Yeah. Well, that's just the way. I mean, because I understand what you're saying about, like, I understand that, but it's if you go to all the indie shows, that's something that's always going to be there.
Yeah, I mean
the whole Japanese, because everybody's big on Japanese wrestling now. So.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the slight you guys were booking him or anything.
No.
That I was.
Oh, I know, of course.
I'm just not. I just never a fan, and it was just never my type. Never.
I have to
guy was that
ignorance
into. I mean,
on
I
that
just
because
like Loki. I really like Loki. But I just, you know, which is a similar, just in general, style of wrestler, but just not Richards' flavor of it, I guess.
And that's funny because this is where we flip. I feel the same. I feel the way you do about Davey Richards about Loki, and maybe it's because I've worked with him.
Yes.
You know, there's a tendency. There's a tendency there. I think what Fredo
I get why
is touching.
People would get that about Loki too. I mean, I guess just for me, it's just I guess being in the Northeast too. I've seen so much Loki, and you know, I guess he would do more stuff like more of a character. He like when he would work as a heel, he was more of a strong, you know, personality type heel. And I guess that's one reason.
Yeah, I think one of the things, the thing that Richards reminds me the most of in that situation is obviously there's a lot of Dynamite Kid, a lot of Benoit there.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, it's interesting when you look at guys that are doing independents these days, and there's a lot of cookie cutter stuff. And I think that what happens is because in the beginning they're playing to family and friends and other workers. There's a tendency to develop a style where I'm going to take it very seriously. I'm going to be very intense and do the whole thing and make it look real. I'm going to show everybody it's real. And I think also, let's face it, in most cases, when these guys start to get some notoriety, the original set of fans they're going to have are hardcore fans. And hardcore fans eat that stuff up like it's free ice cream on Sunday. You know, and that's what they live for, and that's what they want. And I think that there's a tendency to cater toward fans. Also, that's the thing that gets over real well in Japan. So, I mean, I think that it's a, you know, because, I mean, this guy is about far removed from what he is in the ring in real life. You know, and I watched him actually get himself, Richards, geared up to get into the ring, you know, doing the whole pacing up and down and the stuff he does to do it. But I think there's a tendency to, you know, to do it that way. But I think he's also somebody who is still, I don't know how long he's been doing this. It's not a real long time, I don't think. Is it, Bix?
He started getting notoriety, I guess, about almost 5 years ago. So
yeah, about
a few years to that, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, about that thing.
We saw him wrestle back in at one of Bart's shows, like in 2004, I think.
Yeah, that's right. He did come out here and do that. So,
yeah,
so I think again, you know, with a lot of these independents, he's playing to what his audience is right now, and that's you know, hardcores, and that's the whole thing there. I guess the one thing that also, again, it has a lot to do with spending some time talking to the guy, and he's a machine, is what he is. And I know that I personally liked him, so maybe that's some of the of some what's rubbing off there, because
you're biased.
And that's probably why I like him, because I would much rather have somebody who is an average worker, but who has a lot of weight he could carry around, but who has no problem putting over, one of the local indie boys who, hasn't been around that much. I just have a lot, everybody, obviously, kayfabe is dead, but there's still guys who have hang-ups about doing jobs or for some reason, don't want to piss the company they generally work for off by jobbing to an indie guy, and, he gets huge points for me for that.
I guess it's, and again, having worked with a lot of guys back, more so in the earlier days of MPW, back about 8-9 years ago, a lot of the guys some guys are famous now, some guys were famous for a while. You run into all kinds of ego, and it's really funny because of all the guys on the show on Sunday, he probably was easier to work with than a lot of the local guys were.
This is true, exactly.
Well, no wonder he let Loki go over him then without a fight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, his line was something about someone had said something to him, and he says, "Hey, I'm no Loki."
I guess
as Loki had a problem doing a job recently to somebody, I guess.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that that Loki's back on the indies when there's a story about him refusing to do a job.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't take long, did it?
And having said all of this about Davey Richards, which I agree 100%. I mean, I just think he is just a phenomenal worker. Ryan Taylor. I mean, he just, he is amazing.
Yeah,
I have so much respect. I'm such a fan of Ryan Taylor.
I do too. And Bix, have you seen any footage of Ryan Taylor at all? Are you familiar with him at all?
Not beyond what you've said about him, no.
Yeah, he's basically like a local guy here. He has the perfect babyface look to him. And I just been really impressed that, they've thrown him in with some people who are really, really good workers, and he can really adopt their style real well. And I think this is a guy that has the opportunity if again, unfortunately, you're coming along at like one of the lowest ebbs of wrestling in years. But we should try to get you some tape on this guy,
definitely.
because I would like to get your opinion of him, because I'm very impressed by him. And when the time came to start figuring out, who is your top guy, it became quite an obvious choice that he was head over heels going to be that guy. And it's amazing to me because a lot of the other local promotions, for whatever reason, have not pushed him up higher. And I've been kind of surprised by that, because I think he's the kind of guy that can really grow. Now, it's going to be interesting over the next couple months to see how he does, because, he's going to be in a tag match next month against Rocky Romero and Akira Tozawa.
Well, one thing is, the thing that won me over right away the very first time I really saw him in Simi Valley is that he didn't have a bunch of friends there at the show. It was his first appearance, and he didn't just look like a babyface. He worked like a babyface, and he won that crowd over before the match was even like halfway through. I mean, they were behind him and cheering him. And there's a lot of guys who just don't understand how to do that. I mean, I know it sounds like a simple thing to a lot of people, but it isn't as easy as most people think. And there's a lot of people who just aren't taught to do that. And I thought he just did that really well.
Any of you guys know where I could get this ladder match of him against T.J. Perkins that there's a music video of on YouTube? Because that's not it. It's from EWF.
EWF?
We'll look around. I'm sure. I mean, we'll talk off air.
And then the other thing,
I think one person on this line can probably help you.
I can't. I don't have that.
EJ probably asked the guy who likes an incredible.
There's another podcaster that you could probably ask. I think we know who.
Would this be perhaps a young undead podcaster?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, the other thing I really want to get into is, And I think the perfect people to talk about this.
Really.
What's this? What?
We didn't really talk much about Alberto Del Rio. We got kind of cut off.
I know. Kurt just went on something else.
Yeah, well, we only have so much time, and
no, we don't.
one of the things we really want to cover here is
let's Kurt. If I don't mean to jump in, but let's do it like a quick little sum up of Alberto Del Rio. So my question is, what's next? Do we give him the title? Does he make it to the main event of WrestleMania? I think he should.
I think so too.
I think they should put the belt on. I mean, look who.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it's Edge. I mean, Edge is one of the most stale guys they have.
Yeah.
I mean. Mm-hmm. And he's not getting over really well as a baby face, so
it's still too early. Still too early to give him the belt, though.
Nah, it's the right time.
I don't think they have any choice.
Yeah, it's the right time.
I think they have to pull the trigger on that to give it a try, because if the plan is eventually, it is, they want to turn him face, and if they're going to continue to do shows in Mexico, they need, and other places, they need someone who has an Hispanic background.
Yeah, but Vince's thinking is going to be, in my opinion, is to make him chase Edge, I would say, for at least another 1 to 2 pay-per-views, maybe leading up to SummerSlam. It's just...
I just don't think they do that anymore. I don't see that.
And I think WrestleMania is a great way to...
Yeah.
I mean, that is the show. SummerSlam's all that. Yeah,
because if you look at
WrestleMania is the show.
I don't see them changing. I mean, I don't know. There's talk they might take the belt off the Miz. I think that's way too soon to do it, and you need some sort of big title change. And to me, they gave it to Edge to be a placeholder until they could get Del Rio ready. And the only way they're going to figure that out is to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is just a case where you could argue that it hasn't been long enough or whatever, but he's done such a good job and they've done a good enough job that he's clicking enough that if they just do it, it has a good enough shot at working that they should just do it now, and it's WrestleMania. And just by being WrestleMania, it'll mean more than whenever they do it if they waited longer.
Yes,
see, my thinking was they were going to have Cena go over the Miz and keep Edge and Del Rio going, with Del Rio going after Edge for a little while.
I think the better way to go would be the other way, is let Del Rio win it and then let Edge chase him for a couple pay-per-views.
Yeah, but I think there would be a lot more money in a babyface chasing the arrogant heel.
Right, though. I think Ryan's right, though. Even though I would rather see Del Rio win, I think Ryan's right, though, because it's Cena.
Well, let's parallel this then. Yeah. If you're looking at Miz and Cena, okay.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
But they always end with like a babyface winning in WrestleMania.
Right, the last match, not the last match. Right, they can put. Well, don't all. There have been some times they didn't. Plus, they don't have to put Del Rio and Edge on last.
Yeah.
Although usually, they. Not always, though. I mean, they try to make the Royal
Rumble. Yeah, but you're not going to end
match.
WrestleMania with the Miz, winning and then going off the show with that.
Well, if both still winning, then how do you end it? If you don't have, unless they still have something else up their sleeve that they think they should end the show with.
Yeah, I mean, unless
that's true. That's
it's Sting. It's Sting.
If they have Undertaker versus somebody else at the main event, then that'll change that.
Right.
Well, I mean,
that's like Sting.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, first of all, can you prop up the Undertaker to get a decent match out of him this year?
I would actually watch Undertaker versus Sting.
That'd be great. If they can do that, that's great. The only thing is, though, do you really want to see and I have nothing. I have a lot of respect for John Cena. I really do. I think he gets a bum rap sometimes.
Yeah,
but do you really want to see him with his hand raised as the champion at the end of WrestleMania again?
But that's
I don't. But sometimes I think Vince is so delusional that Vince thinks that's what the kids and the fans want to see.
Well, I also get a feeling that this is going to be the year where Triple H is going to start having more of a say. And
well, the story is also that he's also going to be wrestling less too. And I mean, he has an official creative job now, and it seems like people, at least from what it says in the Observer, which it seems like people enjoy working for him as long as he is in wrestling.
Yeah. But, well, it'll be interesting. I mean, as we get closer to it, I mean, obviously, we'll know more as we get closer to the.
Now we know Mistico. Now we know Mistico has zero shot of making it in. With Triple H in there, half those.
Yeah, he'll be debuting, losing to Awesome Kong at WrestleMania. Yeah. That's what it'll be.
I want 2011 to be the year of Hornswoggle. I want him to have a partner named Mini Hornswoggle. I want a little Hornswoggle next to him.
Did you read that whole thing about how Kurt Bauer came up with the junior division?
Yes, I did.
Not exactly.
And then he's like, but he still includes Super Porky, and I'm like, Super Porky hasn't been a junior since 1980. I mean, come on.
Well, the idea was that he was kind of going by height.
Yeah, a comedy guy. I understand
as opposed to weight.
Yeah.
Because
it just
I guess he figured that was more of a barrier overall.
Yeah, but you see this whole group of guys, and you're like, whoa, that's a pretty good group of indie all-stars and the foreign guys, and then all of a sudden you see Super Porky, and I'm like, Super Porky?
Well, and also you figure that his only appearance on a WWE show was what, chewing on a chicken bone or whatever it was?
Eating a ham.
Eating a ham, that's what it was. That's the only thing he did. Of course, with the weight he's dropped now, he could be.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen any pictures of him since dropping the weight yet.
Oh, God, it's amazing. It really is amazing.
But it was another picture by then.
Yeah.
I got to see one when you got to.
Because now what I do is I subscribe to Super Luchas on my iPad, so that's really cool, and you get a lot of really great stuff on there. So it's amazing though. He looks so different.
They get a lot of great pictures.
I mean, in terms of size, is he like early to mid 80s size or bigger? Or
I think he's as small as he's ever been.
Wow. He's as small as when he first started. Basically.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I remember when.
So he's not even. So he's at biggest he's chubby. He's belt now.
His size is like when he first started, but he has a lot of the skin from losing all the weight.
Definitely, he's going to have to get a.
Looks kind of weird.
He's going to have to get a body tuck to solve that part.
He might have to, but he also is not a bad looking guy this way either. He's not the comedy character anymore. I know they do it that way, but he really has a. I don't know how the body's holding out, but he really could have a renaissance after something like this.
Has he been working lately, or is he just?
He's working main events.
Yeah.
I mean, is he working Arena Mexico?
He's working. Okay. He's basically their answer to Mistico leaving now. He's now the main eventer, which nobody ever imagined he would be back up again.
Okay, on that note, I do want to segue into. I want to focus on Dan and Ryan, because you guys are the only two of the five of us who witnessed the Legends Battle Royal, and I heard both you cats talking about it, and if you're an old school fan, this was like a candy store. You guys must tell about the Legends Battle Royal near LAX this past Saturday night.
You start, Ryan.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, I was sitting next to Dan, and Dan will tell you that I felt like I was 8 years old all over again from the very beginning. The Legends Battle Royal was awesome. It was really fantastic. It was well done. They had they started off with having Gene Okerlund coming into the ring and greeting everybody, and they brought some of the old-time wrestlers who weren't actually going to be in the Battle Royal. They brought in Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, and the Iron Sheik, and
Harley Race. I talked to one of the guys who was the referee, said that he insisted on standing. He was in a wheelchair all weekend long, which was kind of sad. But he during that Battle Royal, he insisted on standing.
Yeah, and if looking at his face, he was having the time of his life.
Oh, he was. And Masa Saito, who got in the ring and started running the ropes.
And the fans were chanting, "You still got it."
Yeah, that's weird.
I know he wasn't wrestling, but how did Saito look? Because I know he has Parkinson's.
He looked
pretty
really
good. Yeah, he looked really good, I think, for what for what it was worth. And they were supposed to have Ken Patera and Jim Neidhart in there. Patera's supposedly
Everybody's laughing already.
Patera. Well, I will tell you the official line for Patera. For Patera, he had some back problems.
Oh.
Okay. For Neidhart,
he took care of those problems in the bar.
Yeah. For Neidhart, it evidently was a different situation from what I've been told, and that is during the VIP autograph session, which actually I spent 3 hours sitting with Dangerous Danny Davis, which was a lot of fun on Saturday as one of the volunteers there. They went over a little bit, and Neidhart basically used, I'll stay here and sign a few more autographs if I don't have to be in the Battle Royal.
Gotcha.
And looking at the shape that Neidhart was in, it was a really good idea.
Now, wait a second, though. So you were sitting next to Dangerous Danny Davis the whole time. So
yes.
Did they market it as having two evil referees next to each other?
I was never an evil referee. How dare you?
Yes, you were evil by virtue of breaking the sacred right of kayfabe.
Oh, well, all right. I mean, if you're going to talk about it in real life, yeah, but no. Actually, somebody who I know came up and said, "Oh my God, it's a table with two referees, both named Dan." But very, very nice guy, very cool guy. We said very, very nice to all the fans, which always is important. And it was kind of funny because we had Gene Okerlund to the left, and we had Tatanka to the right. And Okerlund and Danny Davis just kept heckling each other the entire time. And all these people kept coming up to Danny Davis and saying, "Hey, it's great to see you." They give him a hug, whatever. And he turned to me and go, "Who's that?" I've never met that person. I never met that woman in my entire. Who is that? So.
And they had which surprised me that they had the Royal Rumble type setup for the Battle Royal.
And that was perfect, though, because it gave each of the guys their own separate entrance without having to take forever to bring all those guys in.
Right, and everybody gets a pop.
Everybody got the pop.
Mean Gene introduced every single person, so he stuck it at ringside and introduced every person that came out. Danny Davis was the first one to come out, and he started it off with
Mike Graham.
Mike Graham, that's right, who I got to talk to for about 15 minutes after... not after the show. I went over to the bar after the Battle Royal. And,
what a surprise! Wrestlers in a bar. What a surprise!
And I talked to Mike Graham for about 15 minutes, the nicest guy, and I told him what a great job he did, but they started off the Battle Royal, and it was just every I think it was 90 seconds a new person came in, and it made me feel like a kid all over again. It was just really well done, and they weren't as I don't want to say bad, but they weren't as
immobile.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing was that there was something about it. They all kicked up a notch. They all, the third guy in was Jimmy Hart, who obviously had not taken his Ritalin and was all over the place there.
And he was dressed in that outfit, that Memphis wrestling.
The Memphis
cool.
Harlequin.
Awesome. I didn't even realize he was going to be in the Battle Royal.
Oh, I didn't either, but he was in there and he stayed for quite some time. And
Did
also,
he hide under the ring at all?
I'm sorry, what?
Did he hide under the ring at all?
No, man, he actually went after the guys, right? I mean, he was choking guys and punching guys and doing everything.
How old is he now anyway? I mean, he's got to be
pushing 60.
He was pushing 70.
He was bouncing all over that place.
Yeah, he definitely, he's
But that's what I noticed. I mean, Ryan, did you notice it like with Chavo Guerrero and Mondo?
67.
These guys, there was something a little extra there from with all those guys in there, and for us locally to see Rock Riddle, who was another guy here who was basically local, and I think he did some stuff down south, and that was about it. He's hanging upside down to the ropes and stuff.
In fact, that's who we must talk about right now because we hyped him so much last week. I want to hear Dan and Ryan, especially Ryan, talk about the original Mr. Wonderful.
We had both Mr. Wonderfuls at ringside.
Yeah, that's right. And when Rock Riddle was about maybe the 6th person, 7th person to come out, And he came out, and Mean Gene gives this big, build up. Oh, one of the Southern California originals, the original Mr. Wonderful. And he comes out to this 60s hippie music, really cool kind of sounding music. And he's got this black robe on, and he's just strutting down towards the ring, very slow, very calm with a strut. It was the Rock Riddle strut. It was. I was looking at him through 6-year-old eyes all over again. And then he was the first one to do this. He goes completely around the ring, completely around, strutting around. Then he goes and he slowly takes his robe off and kind of folds it and has very old psychology, very old school psychology. Great job.
So he basically did what Del Rio did at the Rumble, where he took forever to get to the ring.
Yeah, and Tito Santana looked great, and a lot of the guys, who had not worked for a while, but everybody seemed to be having a good time. And no
one looked
bad.
I was kind of worried, thinking, well, maybe Bob Orton might not move around too. They all did. And
Orton wore the cast, and Terry Funk, 66-year-old Terry Funk, who juiced for this match, took off the cast and started beating Orton over the head with it.
With powder flying everywhere.
Powder flying everywhere. We joked about it last week. Powder was flying everywhere.
Speaking of which, I know it sounded like a great finish, and Dan, you described it to me, so you must describe it to the people what the finish of the Battle Royal was.
Well, the last 4 guys in the ring were Shane Douglas, Vampiro, a bloody Terry Funk, and Rowdy Roddy Piper. And Piper's about as thin as I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
Now, so they're in the ring, and everybody has gone through. And this match ran, I think, close to an hour, didn't it, Ryan?
It was about 45 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, as Ryan was saying, these things are always clusterfucks anyway. But it had to do. It wasn't so much about work rate as it was nostalgia. And you got down there, and what happened was you had Douglas and Vampiro trying to eliminate each other, and Funk and Piper came over behind them and flipped them over. So now they're both standing there, and the crowd is going wild.
Nuts.
Nuts. And Funk asks for the microphone, and he does this thing, says, Piper, I want you to promise me one thing here before we go any farther. I want you to bow your head and pray. And Piper's looking at him like, yeah, right, I'm going to do that. And he goes, no, I want you to bow your head and pray for all our friends that are gone and for all these nice people so that they get home safely tonight, And after a few minutes of milking this, Piper kind of slowly bows his head for a second. And I want to let you know that I really want to win this battle royal, and of course hit Piper over the head with the microphone. And I kind of thought that because people have talked about that this is going to be Funk's last appearance, that that he might win it. But then I should have known better, because being as old school as he is, he basically in Los Angeles put Piper over, and he went out for Piper. And
they brawled. I mean, they
brawled. They rolled under the bottom rope, and they brawled all over the place,
all over the ringside, everything. And you can at one point they were, I don't know if they had the microphone right by them, but you hear them screaming at each other.
He was doing that great. You pig! You pig!
Yeah.
Oh, classic.
It was so awesome. It was much better than I thought it would be.
And I hope they leave the whole thing complete on the DVD when they release it, because it deserves to be on there complete just for history, because it was really something. And it wasn't very big when you think about it. Again, you're looking at some of these guys and you wonder, with guys like Harley Race or Paul Orndorff with the situation he's in now, with Funk, with the retiring Jake Roberts, all these guys, how much longer are they going to be around? And Jake Roberts actually is about my age, but as I told you guys on Sunday, Jake Roberts looks like he's been down 12 miles of bad road 3 times. I mean, he just is really bad shape.
That's
and before the show, he was standing off the side there, and I walked up to him and I said, Jake, I just want to let you know I've been a fan for a long time. Really, thanks for all you've done. And he shook my hand and he said something that I'll never forget to me. He said, And I said, thank you, you too. And then I went back to my seat.
And I'll tell you, another great moment for me was after the Battle Royal, when I was at the bar, I ran into Chavo Guerrero. Surprisingly.
And I do mean run into, right?
And Chavo comes up to me, and he's telling me, it's funny. He's telling me, yeah, did you enjoy it? Yeah, I had a great time. Did you see when where Bob Orton was trying to throw me over the top rope? He goes and he tells me to go home, and he grabs me, and I said, "Oh, F you, man! I'm not going. I'm going home when I say I'm going home. You're not going to be the one to tell me to go home." And I sat up on the top turnbuckle, and I said, "No, I'm staying here. Now you go home."
Well, that's true. Now, how old is Chavo? Probably Chavo must be.
He's got to be 60.
He's the oldest of the brothers, right?
Yeah, and the bump that he took to eliminate him, he was sitting on the top turnbuckle, and he took a shot, and he went from the top turnbuckle all the way down.
That's amazing.
And it was funny because our booth was kind of catty corner from where the Guerreros were, and the side door opens up, and in comes Chavo, and then in comes Mondo behind that, and Mondo has like one of the luggage carts, and he has all these boxes of stuff they were selling, and they were pushing it in, and I looked over to him, I said, "Mondo, why must you always carry all of Chavo's things?" And he goes, "I know, man."
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
Chavo's 61.
Wow.
62.
Wow. That's impressive.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Well, I also want to mention two things besides the fact that, like I said, I was able to stop and talk to Harley Race for a few minutes. This is the second time I've talked to him, and he still scares the hell out of me. There's an intensity there, whether he wants to have it or not. It's just there's something nerve-wracking about that. But two of the big highlights for me over the weekend, one was getting a chance, besides seeing old friends, was to meet superstar Billy Graham.
Yeah, I agree.
Was really great, and the other highlight of the weekend was Mil Mascaras refusing to pose with Lucky Pierre.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And on that note, we want to give a huge salute to Bill Apter for not only being willing to pose with Lucky Pierre, but for letting Lucky Pierre get on his knees and hug himself up to him. Bill Apter.
Have you seen these photos, Bix? Have you seen these photos, Bix?
I don't check Facebook.
You got to see these photos.
Who's the counter she's on?
It's Lucky Pierre and ODB. It's Lucky Pierre.
No, I mean, whose Facebook account are these?
It's on. I think it's on Courage. Take a look at
it is on the one.
He's saying which one?
The L. Pierre.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wait a second.
L. Pierre website.
Yeah, it's Lucky Pierre and El Generico.
Pierre, not Lucha Pierre. Okay.
Yeah, it was Lucky Pierre and El Generico. There was a meeting.
Yes, and Generico was a very nice guy too, very gracious. ODB was a sweetheart, very friendly woman. And
Generico?
What?
Generico or ODB?
ODB.
Yeah.
Was a sweetheart.
Okay.
Generico might be a sweetheart. I don't know. I didn't hang around him that much.
I know, because you said Generico, and I didn't hear you say ODB.
Oh. Well, let's give him some time. Maybe he'll win me over.
What did Mill say when you...
Well, Fredo actually took control of everything and asked, and what was it, Fredo? Didn't the guy say that the guy before us who asked to get a picture with the photos, they said no or something?
The guy before us was putting on a mask, and they told him to take it off. So the guy in the
he
the guy
just wouldn't
handling
take a picture
the line,
with anyone wearing a mask.
Yeah, he told me that he wasn't doing it. But then I talked to the guy who takes pictures, Andy
Zarasso, yeah.
Yeah, locally. He said you should have just asked Mil Mascaras, and he probably would have done it.
Yeah, but you never know. Mil Mascaras is an odd one. I'll just leave it at that. I salute what he's accomplished, but he's odd.
I guess Dan is off the line now.
Wait, is he? Let me see.
Where did he go? Where did he go?
Up on the show.
Well, It is close to sign-off time.
He just quit. But he just quit on us. He's just like, I'm out of here.
He said,
He didn't say anything.
By the way, my favorite.
Okay, wait a second. I don't see the WrestleReunion pictures anywhere.
Oh my gosh! Has everybody disappeared?
I think it's
losing all concepts of reality.
No, I'm here.
I'm here.
Everybody's here?
Yeah. Except for Dan.
Dan Farren. Oh my lord.
Wait, I'm looking on
again.
L. Pierre, I see older photos. I don't see.
By the way, I love the picture of Lucky Pierre with CBS 2 reporter Soraya Fidel pressed up right against her face.
Yeah.
Great picture.
She was so awesome. She was awesome, and I have a crush on her mom now, too. They're both so sweet.
Her mom, Maria. People. Aren't they the two kindest people?
They were such sweethearts. Very, very nice. Soraya Fidel, very down-to-earth lady, and really took it home with doing the ring announcing gig too.
She was a natural. She did really well, and even though the fans were a tad rough and booed a little bit and didn't watch the news, she gave it back to them a little and kind of did a little back and forth on the mic, sort of jokingly, but she did great, and I was really impressed. I didn't know she had that in her. And her mom is wonderful. Isn't her mom just the greatest?
Oh, so awesome. Just so personable, so sweet. And the reason I have a crush on her mom is her mom thought I was like in my 30s. And I am not in my 30s. I'm much older.
Her mom got so into the Davey Richards Ryan Taylor match that at the end she's like, "Oh, I can't believe he lost."
That's so great.
By the way, I'm back. I got disconnected somehow. I disappeared.
Dan, where were you?
I don't know. I think
Dangerous Danny Davis who did it.
I think. Yeah. Well, we're not
getting with
with
after is awesome.
Is that picture with after awesome?
Yeah. Oh, so you found it, Bix?
Bix is looking at it now.
Awesome.
Find the right album.
Bix, we took two pictures with after. The first one, Kurt was a little higher, and then Bill tells him, "Get a little lower."
That's right.
Yeah, so we were just laughing about that. We're like, "Oh no!" Really.
The first time Lucky Pierre got a little scared, a little nervous.
Yeah, that's the first time.
And who would have thought it would be Bill Apter who would put him in his place?
Well, Bix, also take a look at that. Where they're posing for this picture in the middle of this entire convention. All these people all around. Lucky Pierre has no fear when it comes to this stuff.
And Bill Apter's holding a pack of cigarettes for some reason.
That's right. Kurt, did you put up the one with you with Insane Clown Posse?
I know.
I have not yet. I don't know why I haven't, but I will put that up.
That's a cool one too.
That's a very cool one.
That was very awesome.
You could tell that guy was smoking something earlier.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Totally.
I didn't know he wrestled. He had such a long career in wrestling. The ICP guys.
I don't know the backstory or anything.
Yeah, they trained with Sabu and Rob Van Dam.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Well, they did. Yeah, I mean, they go back to the dying days of WCW, don't they? They were there wrestling then, weren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, they go back to the days when in Detroit, like where they were trained by the original Sheik.
Ah,
really?
With Rob Van Dam, and that's where they have the connection with them, and that's how they got into ECW and then WCW.
Wow.
And that had to be the very late 80s.
Yeah. He went to prison. He started wrestling before that. He got into wrestling like in 84 or 85.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then he went to prison, and when he got out of prison, he hooked up with, I guess, Rob Van Dam and them to get back into wrestling. And then that's where they just became friends, except he didn't like it, so he got into rap or whatever.
Yeah. Only in wrestling could you have Dos Caras, Juggalos, and Tori Wilson in the same room together.
I know, seriously.
It's so true, yes.
And, the best part of WrestleReunion was where you guys positioned the booth for MPW.
Well, we didn't position the booth. That's where they assigned
it doesn't matter. I mean, that was the best place, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, you had the view of the entire room. That was the cool thing about it.
You got a perfect view of Tori Wilson's legs.
That's right.
That's right.
And she was the nicest person.
I seem to remember Fredo sitting with his back to us most of the time, watching Tori Wilson's legs.
That's right. Well, this probably is a good time to wrap up the show. But one thing, this is going to be way off subject, but as a few of you know, I am going through tons of old stuff as I periodically do, giving some stuff away, putting stuff up on Facebook, old wrestling paraphernalia. And you know how it is when you look through these stuff, you always say, oh, yeah, I remember getting this, or I remember who I received this from. Well, I came across something that I never knew I had, and I have no idea where it came from. And maybe everybody in the brother who's a historian already has it, but just a couple of 8x14 pieces of paper that says A History of Wrestling, page 587 through, I think, 590. They're 1932 results. And the first one I'm noticing here is St. Nick's Arena, New York City. Gus Sonnenberg beat Count Joe Varga. Results from Berlin, Germany. Like I said, maybe maybe this is old news to everybody who is a historian, but these are results I've never seen before, and I have no idea who typed these up. Looks like something that was typed 40 years ago.
Did you post them?
What's that?
Have you posted them?
No, but I can do that. If people would like that, I would be more than happy to.
I'd be curious to see what they are, yeah.
Results with Francisco Aguayo from Arizona. But, yeah, I will do that later tonight. Just one of the things that caught my eye, and I hope, I will post those, and I hope people get a kick out of my...
You sure it wasn't one of those things we used to get from Steve Sims all the time?
That's right.
Steve Sims used to send us these great. He would, the guy had all this information, and he would write out on a dot matrix printer and send it to us.
Remember those?
I remember those, and I still have them. I hung on to them. There's a lot of great information there.
Those were awesome, awesome pieces. Well, I want to thank all you cats for being here. I enjoyed being here. This was a fun show that's a little off schedule, but I think it was totally apropos that we did it.
Do you know we also talked more about wrestling tonight than we ever have before?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's wrong with you, Kurt?
So Fredo and I, we promise that next time we will talk about trashy B movies.
Yeah,
we haven't been talking about other stuff as much lately.
Yeah, we'll have to correct that very soon.
Well, I have something I need to ask you about before we go, though. Speaking of clearing out your garage with the newsletters we talked about earlier, one thing I was puzzled by looking at the envelope, why on earth did you still have a bunch of 32-cent stamps?
Well, like I said, I'm going through the garage, and I'm finding all this stuff I haven't looked at in years, and amongst those are stamps. So, if you're a stamp collector, you're going to be in hog heaven, I tell you.
But I got to think, though, how many do you have that you have stamps that are what? Those got to be a good 10 years old, right? I
have more where that came from, and as you know, I'm sending you another pack of stuff, and so you'll be seeing more an eclectic version, an eclectic collection of stamps there.
Was he any 29-cent stamps, perhaps?
I don't think I have any of those. I think I have a couple of Bugs Bunny stamps, the important ones.
Okay, well, yeah, the 32-cent stamp was phased out in January of 1999.
Yep, and I think I have one with Kit Carson or Buffalo Bill or...
That's funny. That's funny because Kurt Brown was also phased out in 1999.
I was phased out before I debuted.
You've been phased out for years, son.
I've been phased out. Like I said last night, young, naive, and stoned.
Kurt, I know where you got those. Didn't you work for some local promoter and he gave you that as a payoff? 32 cents.
But then he asked for half the sheet back because he had to write his mother and apologize to her for being a wrestling promoter.
If they were a little bit older, I would have said they were from Al Tomco.
Canadian stamps, yeah.
Kurt, that's right.
Kurt, real quick, by the way, did you happen to see the posting that Bob Barnett did there's a picture of Martin, who's a local guy out here who has all the rings and whatever, and he had a show. A couple guys, grabbed some of the people from WrestleReunion and did shows on Sunday, but I guess he had Vampiro on the show, and there's a picture of Martin paying Vampiro, and the caption is, "Here's a rarity, a promoter actually paying a wrestler."
I didn't see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you got to look that up.
That's great.
Well, did
I
you
will
see
look
the
for
other
that.
things that pictures that Bob posted over the last week or so?
Oh, there's been some hysterical pictures over the last week.
Well, he went to Jerry Mather's wedding.
He went to Jerry Mather's wedding, yeah. It's pictures of him. It's pictures of Eddie Haskell and Lumpy Rutherford and all this stuff. It's amazing.
Oh, just the name Lumpy Rutherford still cracks me up.
Well, his real name is even better, Frank Blank. So that's
You mean there were no pictures of Chewie in there?
I didn't see any pictures of Whitey. I was looking for Whitey, but I didn't see him anywhere in there.
Oh, well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, just want to say thank you, Dan, thank you, Fredo, thank you, Ryan, thank you, the Bixie Demon. You guys rock so much. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with episode 49 of Slammin' Stan. And in the meantime, remember, if you're walking down a street in Southern California on a dark and starry night and you see something streaking across the sky, it's not a shooting star. What is it?
The remnants of Cowboy Bob Orton's cast.
Why I oughta, yes. It's whatever powder's in the current foreign object yet.
Maybe it was a compound fracture, and they had to use Montel's powder for the clotting.
Oh,
yes.
I thought it was that white stuff that was floating around behind the Juggalo booth at WrestleReunion.
Hey, who put cocaine in my talcum powder?
Who got talcum powder in my cocaine? Yeah.
We'll see you in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
bye.
Let's see if
Bye.